Money needs to always be working to give the best returns on investment. It is for that reason that there are things that I simply won't buy with my money and ways that I definitely would not spend my money, and you should too. So let's explore what some of those are, and I will share with you 10 things that I will no longer spend my money on. Welcome back to Ira Living Finance. Today we're going to be looking at 10 things that I will not spend my money on, and you shouldn't either. So firstly, let's begin with the concept that it is so easy for us to waste money, and the aim is not to stockpile money. It is to invest and grow our wealth portfolio. And in order for us to do so, we need to be conscious about the things that we're spending our money on and draw a line on those things that we definitely do not find productive or profitable ways of spending our monies. In order for us to achieve our financial goals, we need to be accountable and responsible with how we are spending so that we can achieve those goals that we are aspiring to achieving. We can make the journey quicker, or we can prolong the journey depending on how we treat the monies that we are acquiring and how we're directing our spending. And here is my list of 10 things. So the first one is excessive amounts of anything. When I'm spending my money, I do not seek to buy excessive amounts of things, because the reality is you can only use so much of any given thing. So I don't intend to buy excessive amounts of clothing, shoes, or other forms of material possessions that we have. Whenever I do buy things that I buy in great quantity, I choose to buy those in bulk or wholesale, which is simply just to reduce my overall cost and expenditures. Number 2 thing that I wouldn't buy with my money is recreational consumptions. And when I refer to this, I'm talking about things like alcohol and other things that goes with recreational consumption. My body is a temple and I choose to treat it that way. And therefore, I'm not going to spend my money buying things to put in my body for recreation that will consequently lead me to needing to spend more money to treat the effects that those things will cause. And so recreational consumptions aren't things that I'm going to be spending my money on. However, I will spend my money on recreational activities that are going to be wholesome and helpful to my mental health and my physical well-being as well. Number 3 thing that I will not spend my money on is name brand items. I will choose to buy things that are good quality and that are functional. However, what I will not do is spend my money on labels and name brands, because I have enough value in myself to not need those to add more. And besides, I know that these are simply loophole to get you to spend your money excessively, as though it's adding any social value to your existence in any means possible, other than putting your money in the pockets of other people who have been making money using a brand to do so off the backs of people who are seeking that level of validation, and therefore it is not worth me spending my money in that way. So the number 4 thing that I will not spend my money on are things that have to do with meal delivery. Personally, I see this as an unjustifiable up cost to the things that I'm getting, and I will not be spending my money in that way, because oftentimes the cost to deliver those meals are sometimes even more than the cost of the meals themselves, and therefore it's not a justifiable cost for me. I would prefer to prepare my food at home, which is going to be more economical and healthier. And on the occasion where I'm choosing to eat out, I would prefer to go to the place that I'm choosing to eat out, get the food, and enjoy the experience that comes with eating the food that I would have taken away and haven't delivered at home. Equally, if I'm out and needing to get food, I would get that, take it away and take it home, rather than to spend that money on delivery. And in this, I will also include high delivery cost subscriptions are things that I equally will not spend my money on, because I will not be using it anywhere to the extent as which I am going to be paying for it. So it will become a premium where my money is not being used to the best advantage for me, and therefore will not be an expenditure on my books. Number 5, cosmetics. I will spend money on things that are going to hydrate and nourish my skin and take good care of it. However, I will not spend my money on buying certain types of cosmetics. And the reason for that is, if it goes on your skin, it goes into your bloodstream. And we are very conscious of the different chemicals that goes into cosmetics. And so at the expense of saying that I'm going to try and beautify myself more than I am naturally able to do, is not worth it, because the health risks are not worth the compromise for, and therefore I would not spend my money on things that could be more detrimental to my health, that will then require me to spend more money to repair the damage that has been done. And hence, cosmetics is not something that I'm going to spend excessive amount of my money buying. Number 6 is home decor. Whilst it is that I like to make sure that I have pieces in my house that looks presentable and high quality, I prefer to have simplicity and functionality. I do not intend to buy things that are supposed to be adding beautification to my house, that simply creates clutter or requires me to do additional cleaning in addition to what I've already done, just for the expense of saying it looks more beautified than it would have been without those pieces. And in addition to the fact that when they are not dust, then they would affect the air quality in my space. So as a result, I will not be spending my money to buy unnecessary home decor that are not going to be functional in my space, just because people view that those are pieces that would accentuate a space. Number 7 is single-use items. Whilst I do have an appliance or two that I use for specific purposes, those are still going to be repeated uses, although it's only used for maybe one thing. However, it is not the best use of money to buy things that are only going to be used once and then that's it. For me, the more you use it, the more value you get out of it. And therefore, I prefer to buy things that I can reuse so that I can harness its full value. Number 8 is generic presents or gifts. Personally, I prefer to ask individuals that I'm buying gifts for what it is that they would like to have, and then see from those what items they've mentioned or what things or experience that they've mentioned that is within my price point that I can afford to spend on, or that I have set aside to spend on said gifts or presents. Then buy those so that the experience that they're having is going to be meaningful, and my money that I'm spending is actually going to be having positive impact on their life experience as they receive the gifts that are given. I will not buy gifts just because of a commercialized holiday that is in existence, especially ones that I don't believe have any spiritual or moral value. So therefore, these gifts need to be things that are meaningful and functional for the individuals that are going to benefit from it, not things that they're going to take and put down and then never use or simply just re-gift. Because frankly, if I get gifts that are things that I don't need, those are one of the two things that are going to happen. I'm either going to put it down and not bother my head about it, or I'm going to re-gift it or donate it somewhere else. So therefore, I take that same attitude to when I'm spending my money to get gifts or presents for others. And number 9, I do not choose to spend my money on higher purchase or things that I'm going to be paying excess interest on. So for example, credit card or store cards or things like those. Reason being, the things that you're going to be buying on higher purchase are things that are going to be depreciating asset, which means their values are depreciating whilst you're spending and paying expensively for it with the high level of interest rate that you're going to be paying, which means that by the end of it, you would have paid 1.5 to twice or even more the cost of it, and by the end of paying it off, it is half or quarter of the value for which you had bought it for. So that's not the most productive way of using my money to acquire anything that I'm going to be having. I prefer to save my money up so that I can then be able to buy those things that I need, so that I can actually experience them in the fullness of those experiences, because I don't have to be worrying about the higher purchase payment that I will need to make or the high levels of interest that I'm going to be literally wasting paying for an experience before I can actually afford it. And number 10 is in-app purchases or in-subscription add-ons. Those are things that I will not be spending my money on. And that's simply because if the purchase that I'm going to be purchasing in-app is going to be profitable and meaningful, then I can consider it. But if it is not, and oftentimes it's not going to add to the quality of my experience, then definitely I'm not going to be spending that money to buy into it. Equally, if the subscription add-ons are more economical than the alternative, then that's something that I will consider. However, by and large, these are things that I will not be spending my money on because they're simply not worth the added cost to myself. These things that I've mentioned here aren't as important to me as it might be to somebody else, and therefore it allows me to not need to spend towards them, but to be able to better direct my monies in ways that are going to be more meaningful and more rewarding to me and to the future that I am planning and working towards achieving for myself. It also means that I'm in a better position to be able to afford my family things that are going to be more substantial in terms of the experience that we are able to afford and to be able to partake in if I refrain from spending my money in these areas that I've mentioned here. If you appreciate this list, then please tell me in the comments below so that I'm able to have a look at adding on a few more things that I do not choose to spend my money on that might be beneficial to you. And remember, financial literacy is revolutionary. It has transformed my life, and I believe that it can do the same to yours.